When you get police and the community starting to tell you how wonderful the solution is and how much of a difference it makes, there is no better feeling as a CEO than that. And you know it's not just about you, it's about the whole company.
The confidence that you're showing is like honestly, there's a level of confidence that you have that most people don't.
Okay.
And it comes through of people who trust their people.
Yeah.
And that's what you keep going back to that without me even prompting you.
Yeah,
you
nice,
keep going back to
nice.
the trust you have in your people.
Yeah, cool.
That level of confidence is like most like CEOs and founders who like are the type of people to pay to get videos made of themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's a thing.
Yeah, cool.
Most of them are like, I'm this guy, like, let's fucking crush the world. Like, you know, it's like...
Certainly when, like I started off in life as a network engineer, as a design consultant, right? So I was designing big networks and I loved that, right? The complexity of networks. And I can't tell you, it's a bit like writing a song, I can't tell you what a good design is, but when I've done one, I know what it feels like, and it's that's right. Let's move that. Kind of a little bit like Steve Jobs moving the button a millimeter up or down. You know, so I think that's what I'm like in the company, and sometimes that drives some of my staff crazy. It's like, it's fine, Scotty. It's like, no, you just need to move. It just needs to be like this, right? So I can't tell you what perfection is, but I know when we're getting close to it, and so that's a feeling I get.
Yeah.
It's a feeling that Chris gets, and I know Adam's very, very similar. And I know actually everyone in the company's got their aspirations and their standards. So I think when you take that to the market, you know, if you get it right, the market rewards you. Yeah. And that's, you know, what seems to be happening.
Ben Maris, I think we both know. So he puts it in a way, what I always think of the same thought process, which is, it's like sex appeal, right? Like you can't describe it, but you know it when you see it.
You know when you see it.
You know it when you see it. You can't describe by someone you find the sex appeal, but you know it.
Yeah.
And we find the same even with what we do. Like sometimes you just watch a video and you're like, that is going to go off. Like that is going to go.
Correct.
Or you read a piece of content, you're like, this is it. But like, you read another one that's not quite there, you don't actually really know exactly what you need to do to get it there, and you have to just try stuff until and then it comes and you're like, okay, got it. Like that's a win at that one. So that's quite interesting. So like for you, when you talk about that, does it give you confidence when you talk to your team and they see the same thing you do? Is that why? Like when you're with Chris, is that like what you was talking about last episode?
Yeah, they do, right. I see in Adam, he's got a sense of what's right and what works, right, and he's amazing at that, and he's really grown at that. Chris does as well. What I love about the interactions that Chris and I have, it's a lot like you know, Paul McCartney and John Lennon, or Roger Waters and David Gilmour. You know, some of my favourite bands where it's the sum of the parts is way greater than any individual, right? So I love stories like that. I love bands that when they're together make amazing music. Sometimes the egos get out of control, they break away, and then the music individually they make is never as good as the music they made in the band, right? And I think businesses are like that too, and can be, right? It's the people you've got inside them, how they play off each other, how that works. I've noticed it with you too, Stanley. Like I noticed that you've grown and adapted your business, and you've changed and you've felt the market. I see you doing that all the time. So and you know. So well done. Yeah,
thank you. It's definitely something you've got to do, I think, and especially when you surround yourself with the right type of people and realize that like they make you better. That like, you know, I know with like having these guys around me and having everyone in the team that I can do most of all of their jobs, and but I could never do it as good as we can do it together.
Yeah, correct.
You know, even two of me couldn't do it as good as me and Tyler could do something, or me and Sam, because there's like that extra added element that they bring that amplifies what you have, but two of me won't give me that.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of that same thing. So like as a team we're great, as a band we're great. But as you split up, we're nowhere near we're not an equal division of what that total sum was.
It's the connection, it's the synchronicity, it's us rather than you know each individual. So and it's magic. So I think getting back to your point earlier, I always remember Jonathan Ive, and I love Apple. a lot of the products that come out of Apple, mainly because the high standards they set for themselves.
Yeah.
And I find them easy to use. But I remember Jonathan Ive saying, we've designed and we make a lot of these products in isolation. We don't go out and do customer, trials. So you've got to think from your soul, what is it that we want to make, and we dish it up and we hope it's right, and that's I think there's a lot of that in SaferCities and VGrid. I think probably one of the reasons why we've been successful with VGrid is that we haven't necessarily designed it in isolation. We've designed it with police for police, so we've very much all the way along jointly designed it, jointly evolved it. And the principle of it is that it should just keep on evolving, keep on getting better, keep on getting more cameras, keep on getting more features, all while trying to be easy to use, which is hard. It's getting harder as more and more features keep getting included.
Yeah, and tell me about that. Like that, your standard of excellence is really high. Like even working with us, you keep us honest because you're like, no, Stan, like, this is how we work. So you need to come to the same standard, which is great for us too because we love it. And as I said to that, it helps us grow. But like for you, it's cost you money actually, and you've told me that, because you'll slow processes down until the excellence is reached. Tell me, like, why has that been so important for you when you could just slap something together to get the job done? You've slowed it down to make sure everything's ticking the boxes.
It's a good question, and firstly, attention seeker is excellent. Like that's why we're working with you, right? I think your standards are equally as high, and you're always evolving and you're always moving it forward, and I commend you on that. I think the old adage of if you're going to do it right has just always been a philosophy of mine, and of Chris's and of Adam's, and so it probably does slow things down, but I've seen a lot of substandard products and solutions out on the market, and they're almost annoying. It's like if you've just taken a little bit longer to think about that, you might have been more successful with it. You might have you might have done better with it. You talked a little bit before, Stanley, about Ben Maris's comments and all that, and sort of seeing things out there that just feel right. I can remember the first time I saw Skype, and I went, bam, that's going to be successful. I remember the first time I saw YouTube and went, wow, how can I invest in that? And they hadn't been bought by Google then. So you'll come across products and things in the industry, and they'll just feel right. They'll just feel that they've been well thought out, and they're going to be successful. And you try and invest in them, and you miss out. Netflix. Remember when I lived in Silicon Valley, I thought there's just something. This just feels like it's the right time, and it's going to be successful. And of course, it was right. I love the book, apparently written by him, that his wife all the way along was telling him that this is the most stupid idea in the world, right? And so I just often you'll see something and it'll just feel right, and that's the Steve Jobs, Jonathan Ive intuition about a product or a solution that's solving a problem in the market. I've been approached by quite a few vendors, like having been successful with police. You'll often get vendors ring up and say, Scotty, you need to help us, sell this to police or get this into police, and then we'll sit down and we'll look at it with them, and because it's something that we could potentially help with if it feels right. And often it might be 50% there, and you'll be like, what was your decision process on this or that? And they go, well, we just thought that was the right thing to do. So I keep on seeing in the market other vendors and other companies not taking the time to speak with the company that they're wanting to sell it to, or the customers, to actually find out whether they're on the right track or not. And you're the same. I see you do it with us all the time, right? It's fantastic. So
that's good.
You've got to keep the dialogue open.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so over those 11, 12 years that we've been going, and you have built this company, but you've fallen into this role of CEO that you never really set out to have at the beginning. How does it feel now to sit in that role as CEO of this company that's, like, to be honest, is like very successful now for a New Zealand startup company? Like, how does that feel to be sitting there in that position?
It feels really, really good. Absolutely love it. I continually feel a sense of pride with what the company has achieved and what the team have achieved. and in recent years that's just got better and better and better. So there's a sense of validation when you finally get the market investing more, things start going viral, calls come out of nowhere. This is the first time we're working with your wonderful company that we've actually started to do any marketing or any messaging. So we're excited about that and about helping the rest of the world achieve the same stuff. But yeah, when you get police and the community starting to tell you how wonderful the solution is and how much of a difference it makes, there is no better feeling as a CEO than that. And it's not just about you, it's about the whole company. And I consistently think we bat above our average in terms of the current size of the company and what we've been able to achieve.
Yeah.
So we are on a growth phase at the moment because we need more people to scale up, but we're also on a phase where we need we need to work closer with the market, closer with CCTV integrators in order to be able to scale. And as with the community and the police working together for Safer Cities, it's also the, people in the market working together to help all this become a reality.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
cool.
one of our next phases.
Yeah, fantastic.
Which is which we're excited about.
Yeah, it is exciting times for you guys, and you're on that like precipice of like something. You can smell it, right? Like there's something really big about to happen. And I want to touch on that because like, if as a CEO of the company in this moment right now and your day to day, what is the biggest difference between that and when you're on the verge of something big when you're with Cisco? Like, how does it change when it's your company, you're the CEO versus you working in part of a corporate on a big project? How does it feel?
So I think you have worries in both.
Yeah.
Both contexts. I think when you're in a big corporate and you've got thousands of people behind you and your job, your challenge there is how do I get this corporate to deliver to the customer? Who have I got to convince to prioritise this particular customer higher than others and the rest of the world? And I was reasonably good at that for little old New Zealand. I think there's a few people overseas in the United States that may have the impression New Zealand is a bigger country than it actually is. But that was good. We brought some success into this country. I think as a CEO of a small company, you're worried about can you scale as quickly as you need to. There's a big problem in this part of the world, probably all over the world, in terms of getting people and scaling up.
Yeah.
And things are going really well for us now.
Yeah.
The thing that could limit that is if we can't scale fast enough. So we're putting a lot of time and effort into how we do that, how we partner.
Yeah.
And New Zealand's great. New Zealand's a very small country, but it's bats above its average in terms of successful startups, very intelligent people.
Yeah.
I think we're quite a modest, almost shy country in terms of our capability and skill set. Yeah. And we do pretty well on average. So I'm getting a lot of very good advice from mentors and advisors at the moment about how we scale internationally.
Yeah.
Fantastic organisations like Callaghan and NZTE that are being very helpful at the moment. Cool. So we're enjoying that.
Yeah, nice. And if I was a young, CEO trying to scale as well at this point in time, and I was watching this interview with you, what would you want me to know about this process that I'm going through too? Just like you are now, I'm watching this in 5 years' time because it's archived on YouTube, and I'm watching this and I hear, Scotty, what would you want me to know now?
One of the things I'm getting told a lot at the moment is make sure you work on the business, as much or more so than working in the business. So I think when you do a startup, you're very much working in the business. You're wanting to make sure customers are happy. You're wanting to put out fires, and that's a very natural fit for me, but also for anyone doing a startup. And then as a business starts to take off and grow, you've got to try and remove yourself from that and work on the business. And stand back and trust other people in the business to do what you used to do. So I'm struggling with that now because I love keeping customers happy and I love being out on the front line. But we really need to take a step back and work out how we're going to scale internationally, whether we're going to partner, whether we're going to hire. We don't need funding. We're doing very well on a financial side of things, but things when they take off, you need money. So we're just
Yeah.
we're just trying to keep in step.
Yeah. Tell me, going a bit off script here, but for you as the CEO and as this company scales globally, because your potential to scale is pretty large. Like there's quite a large space for you to fill around the world.
Yep.
And if that tends to happen, do you see yourself maintaining the CEO role? Is that something you'd love to lead like that, or do you see delegating that responsibility to someone else who's maybe more used to taking on bigger teams?
Yeah.
How do you see that? Do you have an idea of how that will happen?
I do have an idea. So I think there's CEOs at different stages of the company, and I do. As the company continues to grow and get larger, there will be a time where there's a succession plan, or I'll step more into a founder role. And we're talking about that now in terms of when that is. I think at the moment it feels right for me to remain the CEO to continue to scale it to a level, but there will be a time where I'll go, okay, time out. I'm good at this end, and we need more of a seasoned CEO to come in and take over, or else sort of internally within the company. That could very easily happen.
Yeah.
Someone could step up to the plate. So that's where I look to advisors and people on the board to recommend when that might be suitable or appropriate.
And you're quite confident to walk away from that responsibility and delegate it to someone else?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would be. There'll be a time, right? I think it's where am I best to remain in that role, and where am I best that I step aside and let someone take that over for the betterment of the company, right?
Yeah.
I was never formally trained. I haven't done an MBA, there's a sense of things are going well now.
Yeah.
But there might be a time when the company gets big enough that it's time for me to move back into what I really love doing, which is being out in front of the customer and solving those problems and connecting the dots within the cities.
You talked about working on the business and in the business, and as the company grows, you'd love to get back into it and with the customers. So tell me a little bit about now. Like, how does your day play out? Like, where's that battle between working on and in the business play out with you during the day? What does your days look like? Yeah,
the days are long, and the days tend to be prioritised on the customer side. I'm fortunate at the moment. I've hired someone to help me in this country to take over New Zealand sales and marketing. Cool. He's only been with the company a few weeks, and he's showing real signs of potential. Cool. So I can focus internationally. But it is hard. I think the thing with running a startup or a small company is you are spinning multiple plates all the time. And there have been some people that have joined the company that have been fascinated with how we manage to keep all the plates spinning. But I think we kind of like the adrenaline of that. But as the company gets bigger, we need to have people focused on spinning a few plates rather than trying to spin multiple, right? Yeah. So I think, and that's probably my thing. I need to step back and focus on the core of the business with my advisors and with the board when we form a board. Yeah.
Do you struggle with that process? Like, are you struggling to step up and just focus on the core things as opposed to getting your hands dirty? Yeah,
I do. Yeah. I very much like the people side. I love the networking side. Yeah. I probably fall into consulting because that's where I started in my 20s. Yeah. And really what has started this company and grown this company to where it is. So it's very easy to fall back into that. Yeah. I'm getting very good mentorship and advice to pull back from that and focus on the company rather than working in the company. Yeah. It can be a struggle at times.
Yeah. But doing as best you can.
Yeah.
Seems to be going all right for you. Yeah. What about your goals? So, you're on a bit of a wave at the moment. How do you see that playing out over the next 12 months, and what do you hope to have? If we sat here in a year's time from now, what would you love to be able to tell me we did this year?
Yeah, so we've set some very big goals for the company. So I think the company's growing at a faster rate than we envisaged. And so we've kept on with those stretch targets. So actually one of the things that I learned when I was in Cisco is you set yourself a goal and then you set a stretch goal and then you aim for that and even if you don't achieve the stretch, you've probably passed the original goal that you set. So we've done that across the company, both in terms of the financial aspirations that we have so we can grow, but also in terms of the number of cities and communities and police forces that we can help. And so we're doing that at the moment internationally, and it's pretty steep.
Yeah.
If I was to be honest with you, we don't quite know how we're going to achieve everything yet, but that's the exciting bit.
Yeah.
Because when you write those goals down and you start to believe in them, things just start to happen.
Yeah.
Famous story of a little brown book I've got. You tend to write down goals. I've tended to write down goals in this brown book for probably 20 years, and bizarrely, what I write down, I close the brown book, I come back in 6 months, and like, wow, that actually happened. Would that have happened if I hadn't written it down in this little brown book? So I think however you do it, whatever mechanism you use, it's really good to set big goals for yourself personally, but also for the company.
Yeah.
Get everyone on board with those, and then off you go for the ride.
How does that goal setting culture play out in your team? Like, how do you get the rest of your team on board with these goals and get them to drive towards the same goalpost as you?
Yeah, I think it's sharing them, communicating them, very much getting their involvement in those goals and getting their buy-in. So I think I've mentioned before about hierarchy or lack thereof, but I think it's good to put a flag up and get everyone to contribute to how that flag should be, and then we're off to the races. I think we're fortunate at the moment because the company is of a size where we can do that.
Yeah,
it's probably be a little bit more difficult when it's larger. And I keep on hearing these things about when you get past a certain number of people, the culture and the feel of the company changes. So we will strive to keep the family spirit and values alive. Yeah. But so we do have some big goals, Stanley, for the year that we're in and for next year.
What's the head count 12 months from now? What do you think it'll be?
Head count's up around 20.
Yeah.
So I think within 3 years we're hoping to be around 30.
Yeah.
I think what we're trying to work out is do we need to hire all the staff to achieve the goals we have, or do we need to have more quality alliances with partners and good people that are out there.
Yeah.
I've recently met a very successful entrepreneur who did sell his company a few years ago, just before COVID, and similar to us, started off with consulting, and then a SaaS platform came out of that, and is talking to us about how that grew, and very, very similar issues, but also pathways to success. So I'm really enjoying some of the people that are coming on board to help us scale.
Cool.
And part of why I bring that up is that he and they had a big partnership model, which worked very well for them, right? So cool. I think that's probably the link to our success.
Yeah, nice. I like it.
Yep.
And you've talked a number of times now about people who have come in and helped you, mentors and stuff. Yep. We've touched on that. But like, if we flip that around, like, have you had many young entrepreneurs and founders come to you for advice and asking you from that perspective?
I haven't yet.
Yeah.
I've had CCTV integrators that I've enjoyed helping and that we've enjoyed helping. And there's a lot of really good people out there. So what we enjoy is meeting people that are wired the same as we are and the same as police are. And it's not necessarily all about the money and how much profit they can get from a CCTV system. It's about, how can we actually help this community? Because invariably, if you do that, the money always comes, right? It's if you focus on the money, sure, you'll make money, but if you focus on the greater good of the community, that gets recognised, and you invariably have more work than you can keep up with, right? Which has always been our challenge.
Yeah.
So, and yours as well, right?
Yeah.
You do it for the right reasons. The financial side will take care of itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Tell us, you get this business to a point where you have a succession plan, someone else takes over. Maybe you have a bit of somewhat of an exit, at least partially or something like that. I don't know what your plans are, but do you ever think about what do you invest in next? Like, what's the next thing you'd like to get into? Is there other parts of this tech world that you'd like? I'd love to have a play with that technology.
I was talking about this the other day with one of my advisors. So if that did happen, I would still want to stay in this business. I still, the sense of contributing and the sense of purpose is so rewarding. I'd probably never want to leave it. And one of my advisors' advice was like, well, if that ever happened, there are other ways you can give back to the world. Yeah. And I'm sure there are, but in terms of my background and the background of many people in the team, in terms of our domain skill set and complex networking and domain skill set and CCTV systems and video systems, the ability to contribute the way we do to the world like that it just feels like our purpose and our reason for being.
Do you ever see yourself growing through acquisition?
In terms of us acquiring others or people acquiring us?
No, you're acquiring others, like, younger startups and stuff, and absorbing them into you guys and making you stronger?
Correct, and I think we may have to do that sort of in terms of our international scale. It's a big word out there. It's a big marketplace. I think the marketplace is evolving in terms of the CCTV marketplace and how that works and how that plays together. I think it's a bit slower than what I'd like it to be and what the market itself should be, but it will evolve. I think if we imagine what it's going to look like 20 years from now, which was something someone was trying to get me to do the other day, it'll possibly be easier to do what we offer now with a big SaferCities platform, but I still think what we do now will always be valuable, and we would have evolved. I remember one market, so the United Kingdom market has more CCTV cameras than any other market in the world. You've filmed more times a day there and all that, but they are multiple little CCTV systems that are all isolated. So even there, they still have the problem that we solve with VGrid. And I think to a certain extent that'll always be there, because there's always politics, there's always organisational differences. There's always a reason to join stuff up. So I don't truly see it ever going away. But I see us evolving and almost being like offering an Apple Steve Jobs type app store on top of VGrid. So other companies that do video analytics and artificial intelligence can come along and provide value to their customers through the VGrid SaferCities ecosystem.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's amazing. In terms of the way you started, the way that this company's grown is very organic. You haven't had to take big investment or anything like that as a tech startup, which is actually very different to the rest of the tech world. Tell us, do you think you'd change anything about that if you were to do it again, or were you happy the way that you went forward? Do you think it was the best way for you, or do you think you should have taken investment earlier?
So really good question, Stanley. So we have always self-funded, and what we've enjoyed about that is the ability to make our own decisions and not necessarily be answerable to external investors in terms of return on their investment. So it's probably been harder doing it that way, and it's possibly been slower, but at least we're in control of our own destiny, and at least we can make our own decisions without having to justify those externally. The decision we have to make moving forward is: do we keep on self-funding, or do we get some external funding to grow? At the moment, we're very fortunate. We have a number of very fantastic customers that are essentially funding the growth and further development in the product, because they believe in us and they believe in the product. So that's still our preference. And is still the current intention.
Do you think that in New Zealand, that ecosystem and startup world is sufficient to support young, startup founders and things? Do you think there's a good structure there for them to?
I think so. Yes, I think the benefit of New Zealand is that it is a small country. You can use it almost as a research and development test site, and you can very quickly get to the top of specific organisations to do pilots, to test things, to try things out. So I think you can as a startup, you can progress faster with proof of concepts and concept trials. I think the limitation with New Zealand is the size of it. You know, the amount of money flowing around. So I think once you've proven it here, then it's very advantageous to move offshore where there's more money, bigger markets, and that's really what's happened to us last year. Yeah. It's not easy though. So we've had some success internationally recently, but we also had some real challenges just before COVID, trying to head back into the North American market where I used to live, and thought we had some success there, and then didn't quite happen as fast as we wanted to, and then COVID hit. So we sunk a bit of money into the US, lots of flights backwards and forwards for 2.5 years. So it's hard, doesn't always work out. Yeah. The overseas international markets can be more complex than New Zealand. So, you need to do your research as well before you go spending a lot of money and time on them.
What are some of those complexities that you faced that you thought, that you just weren't aware of, that were a bit of a shock when you got there?
I think with the North American market, I had no idea how complex the legal or the litigious side were, right? So North America has, or United States of America has issues with active shooters and guns, a lot of that sort of stuff, right? So you'd think that what we bring to the market would help with better collaboration between schools and police and universities and police. The paperwork to connect up a university or a school back to the police, even for a trial, was unbelievable. And so, on the one hand, you've got things that happen over there that are not so great in terms of guns, and then on the other side, you've got the amount of paperwork and compliance was over the top. And I remember one conversation I had, and I won't mention the corporate, but they had car parks, 40, 50 buildings, lots of car parks, and they did have issues with shootouts in the car parks and issues going wrong, and they had lots of cameras, and so we were talking about them coming onto the pilot, and they were like, "I'd never get it through, Scotty." And I went, "Well, what do you mean?" It's like, well, if we shared the cameras with police and someone got shot in the car park, there's a risk that we would get sued by the family of the person that got shot because the police didn't turn up in time, or something didn't quite pan out the way it was supposed to. And so because we would get sued, it's actually too risky. So rather than share the cameras back to police, we're just not going to share them back to the police because of the litigious risk. And I'm like, wow. So the ability to share the cameras with police, maybe save a life, was less than being sued. And so things like that really made me think about that particular marketplace and just how difficult it would be to try and add value there.
Yeah, I find that it's a real interesting point for me, and I think for others listening, as a company wanting to expand to the US, it's something that I keep hearing too, is that don't be surprised how litigious it's going to be, and how, just my insurance quote was enough to prove just how hard it is going to be to go there. And I don't think people overlook how easy it is to do stuff in New Zealand. Yeah, relatively, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely right.
Yeah.
I think what we're finding internationally that actually plays well into the value that we add. So I think New Zealand's one country. There's one police force. There's a certain number of councils, and it's easier because there's less players, right? So even in the international market we've headed into now, there's different states. There's politics involved in those states. There's competitive principles, and we're actually able to help them all because we can sit in the middle and help them connect up within that rule set. So we're finding some of the normal human politics you get between one state and another, or one city and another, is something that we can come to the table and help with because of how the platform works and all the compliance built into it. So
yeah, cool. No, it's interesting. It's an interesting topic. And lastly, I'm going to ask you a quick question about being a CEO, and for those people out there watching who might be at the beginning of a journey of a startup or something like that, but they don't see themselves as the CEO. They always saw themselves number 2, number 3. They've always been a worker, but they've got this idea. They've got this purpose that they're going for. How do they maintain that passion to keep driving forward for what they've got? And do you think that each and every one of them can actually be a CEO, or should they look somewhere else? So one, how do they keep the passion of driving forward? And 2, can all of them be a CEO? Is it something they can learn, or is it something that they should get help with?
Yeah, really good question. I'll probably find the second one harder to answer. But the first one is you've got to believe in your vision and your passion and enough to keep on going, because it's way harder than you think. So the thing we all hear time and time again is if you have aspirations to set up a company and do some good stuff, it'll take 3 times as long as you think, and it'll cost twice as much. Or you can swap the 2 and the 3, but it is always harder and it always takes longer, and that's certainly the case with us and others. And you've just got to believe in the vision and believe that you're making a difference, because there are some really hard times. And we've had some of those over previous years, and you just hang in there and then you come out the other end. I think the second one, in terms of would everyone be a CEO, and should they stay at it? I think that's just you do what you need to do. You roll up your sleeves. You get the company to take off, and then invariably you're probably harder on yourself than anyone else is. So you'll know if you're holding the company back, and it's time for you to step aside and let someone else come and take that over. There's probably no right or wrong answer. I think one of the things that attracts me about bringing on a formal board and scares me is that one of the questions that the board ask is that at the start of the meeting, should we fire the CEO? And at the end of the meeting, should we fire the CEO, right? So their job is to get the best value out of the company, and as a CEO doing the right thing for the company. So I simultaneously like that and am scared by that. And you've only got to look at Steve Jobs, got fired from his own company, right? That can't have been a good day. So that wouldn't be good, but you've frequently got to take yourself out of thinking that you are the company. The company is the company, and you're contributing to it, and you may have come up with the original vision and founded it, but the company itself is an entity that's not you, and you've either got to do the best job for that company that you can, or you've got to let someone else do that. So that's it's a
real interesting point, and I think as we finish there, it's something that I think a lot of people take home. You've said it a number of times, like what's for the betterment of the company. I think it's such a strong position to hold, and I don't think it's quite normal for people to have that opinion. Like I think about myself running this company, like this is my company, my little baby. Like it's quite hard to think of it as like to give it up, to let other people take over, or because it's right for the company. It's like quite a hard thing. I know it to be true, but it's like it's still hard. It doesn't make it easy to do that. But I think hearing you say that, it's quite reassuring that the affirmation's there, that is the right way to look.
I think, and thank you for that. I think for the betterment of the company is one thing. I think for the betterment of the community is another, because that's really the sense of purpose of our company. I still, and you've probably heard me talk about Steve Jobs and Apple and Jonathan Ive, but I still remember when he came back, it was one of his aspirations was to make a dent in the world, and that's always been something that's driven me. So well after you've passed or moved on, has that company contributed something significant to the world that company will be remembered for, and you may or may not be remembered for, right? I think one of the things that drove me as a very young boy is when I saw a movie on Thomas Edison, inventing the light bulb, and that's probably I think I was 6 or 7, and I decided I wanted to be an inventor. Still probably haven't invented anything, but hopefully shaped some stuff and had some visions. But yes, to be able to do something and contribute something bigger than yourself, that's a pretty cool feeling. So
awesome.
Leave your ego at the door and see if you can help change the world in a good way.
It's amazing. Well, thank you so much for today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, Shanley.
Cheers.
Thanks for the opportunity.